It's an open secret that automotive systems are becoming more connected, more integrated, and more capable. But for designers today, the challenge is bigger than just choosing the right chipset or selecting the right MCU. The challenge is to get to a validated solution fast, and we're talking weeks, not months. In this tech chat, brought to you by Mouser Electronics, I'm joined by Aaron Torres from NXP to dig into the hardware, software, and architecture decisions driving the next generation of automotive development. Aaron, thanks for being here. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you, Daniel. It's my pleasure just to bring me here.
Can you lay out for me what are automotive engineers dealing with today in 2026? What's new, what's trending, what's causing people trouble?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. We have been ranging from different story. In the past, we were trying just to solve a customer request in less than 6 months. But now, due to the fast pace that automotive is demanding, engineers need to go from a customer idea from 1 week to 1 month. So the faster they can assess all the customer needs and put something in their hands, it's the only way that they could go faster in the market.
I've been shocked how fast the world of automotive has been changing over the last couple of years. What do you think is driving that 1 to 3 month timeline instead of that 6 month timeline?
Yeah, I think it's the way that the technology is evolving and it's getting replaced. So we were in the past, we were like having this at least 10 to 15 years life in the products, and now we need to renew the platforms in less than 3 years. So that's why if you need to evaluate a new solution, you need to evaluate it as fast as you can.
And it seems like NXP has been putting a lot of thought in how to help equip engineers to solve those problems and meet those crunching timelines. Can you tell me a little bit about NXP's role in the world of automotive and what sorts of things you are working on to make sure that automotive engineers can be more successful?
Yeah, Daniel. Well, we are transitioning just from being components level, electronic components level, and silicon devices through a solution company. Now, due to the change in the customer requirements, they need to have partners that they can provide solutions, full solutions, not just the chip and then and give them all the additional work just to integrate the solution. So NXP is taking a role just to be a partner to provide all these solutions, mainly from automotive transportation, drones, and some additional humanoids, for example. So all these new technologies and trends are something that we are having in the edge.
The humanoid robot thing is something that is probably a discussion for another day, but I'm ultra excited for a world where we can have kind of humanoid robots
Yep.
mowing my lawn or doing the dishes. Just sounds wonderful. Can you dig a little more into kind of when you say solutions, what does that look like? Beyond just a chip, what sorts of things are you integrating with that to make
Yeah.
sure it's fast and usable for people?
We are creating or providing this kind of architecture way of thinking for the customers. So we are putting around the MCU or MPU all the building blocks that are needed just to put a solution. For example, we are providing a PMIC, a power management IC, and we are having a different communication interfaces like CAN, LIN, Ethernet, or others are needed, along with different MCU capabilities. For example, for these new requirements, some of the customers are moving away from, say, serial communication to Ethernet communication. So in that way, we are providing a full system that is already integrated just to communicate through Ethernet.
So when I hear this kind of solutions all in one play, I just start to see the price tag go up in my head where it's like, oh, this board does all these things, which is awesome. But now I'm spending maybe sometimes a couple $100s on a dev board or more. Can you talk me through how you're addressing and approaching how do I do this kind of, quick and cheap versus, that cost versus capability trade-off?
In the close past, we were providing a full feature board range in the 800 or 1000 plus. Why? Because you are having a close to a real product for production grade level. Nevertheless, the customers are going way before. They want to interact with the microcontroller, with the solution the fastest they can. That's why we were receiving all this feedback from the market, and we conceived this solution ranging from 29 US up to 145.
So 29 is very easy to expense and get approval for
Yes.
versus, 1,029. How do you actually do that? What trade-offs are being made? Like, how do I actually make sure I'm getting what I need out of my dev board?
Yeah, indeed. We had to rethink this, the way that we are providing the solutions or the features that we are selecting for boards. So from a full feature, we have to strip down and select just what is the core for the customer. So in the baseboard, you will have the bare minimum. You have the microcontroller, the PMIC, the power management IC, and you have some interfaces. And then everything else that you need to build a full system goes on top. Indeed, we are using this Arduino Uno extension just to have all the click on boards on top, plus the specific software needed just to work from motor control, battery management system. You have lighting, or if you have to implement safety, you have everything just to do it quickly.
What's been the most surprising configuration or application you've seen someone use this for?
Well, we have been receiving feedback from the customers that they are struggling just to implement a power battery management, for example, and we are working towards to have everything this that they need just to put everything together. And then the most common application that now the customers are running, it's everything related to gateways. So you have a multiple configuration receiving either Ethernet CAN or LIN, and then sending everything through Ethernet. And finally, motor control. So for motor control, we are having these extension boards where you are only uh, putting the baseboard, clicking the extension board, attaching your specific BLDC motor, and using our tools, you can tune faster the motor just to get it spinning.
How much is it important to become a bit of a generalist versus the things you've described, like doing battery management systems, BMSs, doing motor controllers, have historically been kind of more specialty sorts of expertises. How important is it today for engineers to kind of round out their capability set and make sure they can tackle these different types of things?
Yeah, I think the everything strives in that you need to know all about everything. Nevertheless, you need to become a specialist in something, and having all this knowledge pre-validated, preconceived from our side, you don't need to be very special in everything. You don't need to have a PhD to start controlling a complex algorithm to control a motor. We are providing everything pre-loaded, pre-validated for you just to start.
So to provide this full stack like you're talking about and give people the capability to tackle these traditionally specialist applications, what does that stack look like? Because it can't just be a dev board with a chip and some components on it.
We are providing all these software stack, just as you mentioned. That includes the RTOS, so is the OS that we need, or we have AutoSAR, depending on the automotive application we need. And we have this level of RTD drivers. We usually are struggling to develop all the code needed to handle or to drive an I/O, an interface, a timer, and all the features that the microcontroller have or have available. On top of that, we have this CAN and LIN stacks along with the Ethernet just to facilitate customer life. All these stack or libraries are made with ISO 26262. So this is functional safety proof, and we are um, prepared just to any cyber attack. It's there. It's already there.
Yeah, how much do you think about security and how much are designers thinking about security in their final designs today? It seems like it's got to be a pretty big topic.
Yeah, yeah, it did. I think in the past it was a nice feature to have. Now it needs to be blended into the IDN of the product. That need to be pre-architectured, and all our products and indeed this platform is prepared just to be safety and secure from the beginning.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the platform? And I see FRDM. Can you talk to me kind of about the freedom design philosophy and what that looks like and means?
Yeah, yeah. Indeed, the freedom, it's, let's say, not new at NXP. Indeed, it's really, really into where our ADN, indeed, in our roots. We started from Freescale Semiconductors, and since Freescale Semiconductors, there was the need just to provide the engineers to enable them with something that could be easy to carry, easy to use and transportate, and even more useful to go from out of the experience to a really functional product or product like that you could put in front of the customer. So this platform, it has been evolving. Now we start with the say industrial and IoT, and we are moving along to automotive because it was something that the customer were demanding. In this point, we were trying to consolidate all the knowledge that we have for automotive, all the features and the tools, and now pass it along into an easy way to adopt. In this way, we are reducing the development cycle to the users, and that way they are accelerating to go faster to the market. And then we are saving to development costs. So the total cost of ownership for a evaluation board, it's dramatically reduced with this starting from 29. So it's a good access point. And finally, to accelerate the time to market, just as we discussed previously, we are reducing the time cycle from probably a 6 months to a year to 3 months to 1 month.
What does verification look like? Just for my own curiosity, if someone has, say, 6 weeks from concept to, hey, we got to have the design, how long are the verification and integration cycles? Or is the accelerated timeline in order to kind of, does it account for that sort of follow-up robustness?
Yeah, well, I used to work with the automotive industry in the manufacturing side, and when a product was ready from the R&D side through the manufacturing, that period it may take more than a year just to have safe launch, to have all the internal validation, lifetime validation, and everything related to that, the extreme conditions, just to accelerate the trustworthy products that we could pass into the customer final usage. Now, with all these pre-integrated, pre-validated, pre-engineered solution that we are providing, we could be sure that that new requirements in time demand are met in less than, let's say, 3 months. You can have a good level of certainty that your product is pre-validated.
You mentioned certifications, and in my mind, automotive certifications are a little bit of, oh, I'm going to say legacy in that is like if you're putting a new brake design in or a new steering, pump in, that was a very mechanical, you know, as shipped sort of thing. But as OTA updates are becoming a thing, how much is certification keeping up with kind of the modern trends of design?
Yeah, that's a good question, and let's say quite hard to answer because it depends on the let's say the grade that the customer are looking just to certify their products. For example, we have the possibility just to provide the top, for example, ACL D for the safety in the products, and we have all the certification needed, and all our products are developed in this way, and we are providing all the information and the documentation for the customer to be sure that they are meeting all these specs. If they need to certify their product in their site once the product is completed, they can use our model just to go there and facilitate all the process.
So there's already some kind of pre-work done even at the chip level to make sure
Yes,
that that process goes faster and smoother.
yes.
So you mentioned a very accessible price point of $29 as kind of a starting price. Can you walk me through what do you kind of get at each price point, or what do you give up as you go to the less expensive boards?
We decided just to provide this full portfolio based on the different needs from the customers and what they may need in the specific time of their development journey. For example, from this bottom of the list, we have this S32K 118 and 144. These are based on ARM Core M0 Plus, and this could be for very, very, let's say, non-smart uses, like if you have like an end node and you want to have just to control a switch or a I don't know, a final integration, you can do it with no more power computing than this. Then if you want to go up and then now you have different needs, like you need to have some power computing and you need to spin on a motor with a powerful algorithm, then you could go for a K3 family, for example, for K312. In this family, we are having with the ARM Cortex M7 and with all the features around this. Basically, along with the beaming that we are providing and the interfaces that we are putting together, we are having a good aggregator just to be in that way, just to consolidate sounds in the car or in the transportation application. Then for some of the customers that they are looking to have a more powerful solutions, they could go through K344. If they are looking to have a gigabit Ethernet device that could consolidate more information or could like act as a gateway, then that's their choice. And finally, just to go through a solution, an integrated solution to reduce the footprint in a final application, you can call it like a sunroof controller or a power steering or a folding steering wheel for those autonomous cars that are coming. Then you can use a application like Freedom A S32M276, and that is ranging from 149 US, which to have this kind of application, it's really, really affordable.
It makes sense that you would kind of look at what you are trying to do and figure out how much compute you need and get a board that kind of matches that capability. We do have a kind of a chart here, so if people are like, hey, I need specifically temperature sensor or something like that, they can find it on this chart. And you also did mention there's some peripherals, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let's dig into maybe two of these boards. Start with like the K344. Can you talk to me a little bit about this board and how you see people using them?
For the K344, one of the beauty of this board is that we are providing this Ethernet connectivity for all of the customers that they are transitioning from the CAN and LAN interfaces. Now they are moving towards 100 base D1S or 10 base D1S dual paired communication with Ethernet. This is a good, let's say, expansion or upgrade. With this board, we are providing additional extension just to IGMII expansion board if you have it, just for other Ethernet communication or other expansion cards. And with the features like the PIMIC that we are providing, we are building a good solution for the customers. Again, if the customers wants to extend their solution through other additional boards or click boards, they can use these Arduino Uno expansion connectors. In that way, they can build on top and they can create everything. One feature that is new for all of us in the, let's say, in the automotive market is power delivery. And we're using power delivery in this board just to reduce the hassle for the customers. You usually have you need to plug the USB-C and then the power connector. Now that is not longer needed. You need just to connect the USB-C and then get all the power out of the computer or the power supply, and then just power your extension board through that. In that way, you are saving costs, you are saving space, and you're reducing the full hassle for the customers.
And then if I wanted to step up to a beefier board, you mentioned the M276. Can you kind of spotlight this one for me and talk through what this one looks like?
Yeah. Well, SR2M2, it's an integrated solution that we are providing. For some customer that may know our, let's say, predecessor, it's called the MagniB. It's really loved, and everybody loves the MagniB. And now we are transitioning. You mentioned before, what about all these SDVs and the future needs for the cars where the software is creating more room to get more features? Well, this is one of the, let's say, main features that we are having. S3 2M2 as an integrated solutions, we are providing the MCU plus an analog extension, including power regulator. So we have the voltage regulator. We have an integrated PHY for either CAN or lean, depending on the version. And we have this get driver included. So for a customer that they are usually having all in discrete components, this is a real advantage. When you have a tight space or a reduced footprint, S32M2 is your choice just to have this in different applications. For example, for autonomous cars, we have this folding steering wheel. We have a tight space in the sunroof applications. We have for e-turbos, for you name it, all the, let's say, constraints that you may have in space or in footprint, M2 is a good solution for you.
Maybe a dumb question, but what is a seatbelt pretensioner?
Okay, well, good question. If you have in your car and you need to buckle your seatbelt, there is a device inside. There's like a cylindric device along with your car. That is the pretensioner. So it's basically a PLDC motor that is like tightening the belt just to avoid that something get loose.
Interesting. Okay. My car is 20 years old, so I don't think it has that, but I could be wrong.
It's classic.
I love it, but yeah, it's like, huh, interesting. It's amazing how far the tech has come and continues to push. So, I mean, it's an exciting time and an unusual time to be in automotive. You also mentioned the peripheral boards and kind of the add-on extension boards. Can you talk me through what sorts of boards people might be looking at?
You mentioned before as well that we have to probably take some decisions just to strip down the solution. And that's why we are creating these extension boards. When you are creating your solution, depending on, you are not like casting in stone the solution that you may have as a reference design. In this way, with extension boards, you can play or range from the different kind of applications. For example, when you are building like a gateway and you need to have different interfaces, or if we create a new interface and you need to try it with your same base MCU, then it's where extension boards come into play. For example, we have CAN and lean extension boards, and for all the 48 volts solutions that are in the market, we are creating this kind of effusers or e-switches that you could extend it. If you need to control a motor, and then we have the motor control extension board. In some of other cases, if you need to have like an additional image to evaluate or just to power a new power tree, then you can use these extension boards. And all are compatible with Arduino Uno.
Interesting. Like it makes sense to have it. The Arduino Uno format is so like iconic. How often are you running into like a Uno in the field?
Let's say I am getting a new approach to the customers, and I have been in front of them. Let's say often, at least every month, every quarter, we are having this face-to-face meeting with the customers, and these kind of solutions, you only can figure it out if you're in front of the customer, because you are like feeling their pain points, and you are collecting all their feedback. And it's not the way that we are creating all these solutions, Daniel.
Like I mentioned earlier, there is a lookup chart to make sure that the board that you end up with does the things you want it to do. So you can, pause and check this chart out if you want. Getting the right hardware is important, but we also have talked today about making sure the software stack is there and set up the way that works for people. Can you talk me through, give me like a 15 or 20,000 foot view of what sorts of software applications and things that people need to think about as they're going to integrate this hardware?
So as we could see here in this mapping, what we are providing to the customer is not just the IDE or not just the way that they could code whatever they need. What we are providing is a set of building blocks that they can use, just put together and download an application that is functionally meeting other standards that they need. For example, you could see here that we are providing the MCU and all these features. On top of that, we are having this RTOS, the OS that we are using for the devices just to run all the applications, along with the AutoSAR, because for automotive or for transportation application, it's a really differentiator that you are having a solution that is already meeting all these requirements. So when you are creating your final device, if it's already meeting AutoSAR requirements, you are one step ahead or probably 10 steps ahead. And additionally, we mentioned before the OTA. In this case, we are providing all these building blocks just to create your applications ready for software-defined vehicles, just to change the software updates, just to A/B swap in the memory. We are preparing all these functional safety if you are building a battery management system. We are providing all these fast video and audio transmission just to have all these features that are needed for the infotainment systems. And if you are having all these solutions, you could say, okay, well, but how long it will take me just to install everything and make everything running? Well, we pre-integrated everything and we pack everything in a set of bundles. In these bundles that you could download directly from our webpage, we are having these 3 bundles, one for S32K1, one for S32K3, and one for S32M2. All these stacks that you are showing before are pre-installed and everything is pre-selected just for the customer to click and then download. They could spend like no more than 20 minutes just to get everything running, download an example and run it.
There's nothing worse than like thinking your IDE is set up and then you're like, oh, now you got to go find this weird like driver or plugin. So this is a very beautiful thing to have for people. Just here's the package with everything you need.
Yes.
And you mentioned applications and the application hub. What sorts of examples can people look for if they're trying to just kind of get started with a sample?
Yeah. Well, Application Hub is this repository which we are providing for the customers, where we are placing not just the software. We are getting deeper in trying just to help the customer for them to have a single place to have everything together. So Application Hub is hosted under nxp.com, and you can there search for different applications for the different microcontrollers that we are providing, and everything is replicated or mirrored in GitHub. So it's open just for you to download everything with different licenses for you just to use the software, replicate what you are seeing, and then ranging from a simple, let's say, GPIO that you could handle just to blink an LED through a complex motor control algorithm that you could use just to control this pretensioner, a blower.
Of all the applications, which one is your personal favorite?
Oh, well, this is a good question. I think one of my favorites are 2. We have this CAN communication using the gateway for S32K312 and S32M2. And the one that is really, really famous is the one for Ethernet communication, Ethernet gateways. So in these two, what we are exposing is this easy way just to have a complex scenario that is realistic in the card, let's say, environment. And you are just downloading everything, put everything, all the pieces together. It's like a brick set. So you put all the parts, you follow the instructions, and then the set is completed.
And it looks like we're joined by the joined by the pet for the last bit. So if if someone wanted to get started with this, they're like, all right, I'm excited, let's get going. Where should they go and what should they do?
Yeah, that's a good question. And they could go to nxp.com/FRDM-A and they can get everything download from them. They need just to select one of our 3 bundles, depending on the board they have on their hands. Download everything in less than 20 minutes. Install the software, install the IDE, follow the configuration. And finally, just select the software, the application code that they have to install in the board, and then run it. That's it. As simple as that. Just find it, get it, and use it.
That was Aaron Torres from NXP. And to find the dev boards we just talked about, go to mouser.com/NXP or use the link below. I'm Daniel Bogdanoff. Thanks for tuning in to this Tech Chat sponsored by Mouser Electronics, and I'll see you next time.